Hello, Steve89. Well, I've made a few videos about problem neighbours and noisy neighbours, and I had problems with a guy who, although he lived here for about 3 years or so, he really started to become a problem about a year ago. He finally got evicted in January, and then there was another neighbour that became a problem as well, and I didn't really talk about it because I had just told everyone that this guy had been evicted, and I didn't have to deal with him anymore. I didn't want to be like now there's another neighbour, like I just needed to complain about something. I felt like people would think I was just making up another neighbour just because I wasn't getting sympathy for that story anymore or something. So I didn't say anything about it because it just felt really weird to say, yes, this guy's finally moved after years of harassing me, and now the next door neighbour's doing the same thing. But that's what happened. I had this guy who lived here for about 3 years, but about a year or so ago, I think it was December 2000. His relationship ended, and he started using drugs, as far as I can tell. And he would be up all day. I mean, he'd get up early, and he would stay up all night because he worked at night, but he only worked a few hours, and he'd only sleep an hour or two. So he'd basically up all day and all night, listening to music, listening to the races, having friends over, and just going non-stop, having his door open all the time. He would never close his door, so everything he did in his room, the sound would come across the hall to me, so I could just hear him all day, every day, and it just didn't stop because he never slept. The worst part was the neighbours who would visit, or friends that would visit him, they'd stand in the doorway in the hall and talk at him in the room and yell, basically, so he could hear him, and they're really loud people. One of them was a girl who was buying drugs for him, and she assumed a friendship with him, and she'd show up like 7 or 8 in the morning. She'd come knock on the door and be standing at the door talking to him for hours in this big booming voice, and it was like she was standing right here in the room with me. It was just impossible to ignore and just disrupted everything I was trying to do. Then she got evicted because she was crazy and was just running around running amok, damaging property and just being crazy. She was a whole other problem. She would smoke in the hall, and when she was smoking, she'd turn the music on in her apartment so she could hear it in the hall, and just being crazy. But they evicted her, and then this guy got evicted as well. But unfortunately, that was in January. But in November last year, someone else moved in, and they become best friends. And he would be standing at his door from like early in the day, and talking for hours. Same thing, big guy, big booming voice. And it was so loud, it was louder than my TV. I couldn't do anything to like muffle it out, to drown it out. And it'd just be like he was standing in the room yelling at me all day. And it was just driving me mad. And when they evicted the other guy, because they assumed that this guy was just following the other guy, and he was like a follower, and the other guy was sort of instigating everything. Once he left, the other guy would calm down on his own. Well, he didn't. It's like he decided, despite the people that evicted the other guy, who obviously had problems with the noise, because a bunch of people called, like a lot of people complained about this guy, and he'd also get high and go on benders where he'd run around, put his music up loud, like 12, 2, 3 a.m. in the morning, and be singing and yelling and throwing things around. Anything that was in the hall, he'd like throw it around, and he threatened people, and he got really serious with threatening a couple of people, and they went to the police apparently. The police were called a bunch of times on him for noise, but it was also about threatening this guy. So he got kicked out, he got evicted. But this other guy, it's almost like he was trying to get revenge on everyone for getting the other guy evicted. So he'd go out of his way to be loud. Like whenever he wanted to make a phone call, he'd go into the hall and make it. So he'd be walking around the hall or standing in his doorway and just yelling out at his phone so everyone had to hear it. And he'd just be hovering around the hall, and when he'd see someone come out of the room, he'd grab them for conversation, and it was really not as consistent as the other guy, but when he did do it, he was so loud, it was worse. And like I sort of spoke to the real estate, I said, yeah, this guy's as bad as the other guy. He said, oh look, give him a few weeks, he'll calm down. Well, a few weeks later, no change. And I'm like, this guy isn't doing enough stuff to get evicted. So I'm just going to have to put up with him. The real estate offered me an apartment downstairs. He said, do you want to move into one of the apartments downstairs? We're renovating it. And I said, no. I've been robbed before, I've been assaulted before, I've got post-traumatic stress syndrome. I can't live on the ground because when I live I'm on the third floor. I've always live in apartments upstairs because there's only a front door and a window, and no one can, you don't have to worry about anyone. If they don't come, there's no one coming in the front door, there's no one coming. Whereas if you live in a house with all the windows, anyone can just break in any window. And I've been on the ground floor a few times and people be walking around the building and walking around outside the windows, and it just triggered me and freaked me out. So I said, no, I can't live on the ground floor. And I said, look, if there's something on the second floor, I might be able to do it. Maybe we could do that. And he said, well, I'll let you know because there's nothing now. He just had leased out 3 apartments the week before, all on the second level. And he just had stuff on the first floor because there's 30 apartments and they often have a couple empty. They're always sort of trying to fill one. People are always coming and going. So yeah, I'm thinking, God, I'm going to have to move. I can't live next to this guy. He's too loud. And he always walks around his room. Every time he goes into a room, he slams the door. Every time he goes to the toilet, he slams the lid down. I can hear everything. He's so loud. It's like he's angry and he's just walking around slamming stuff. And I'm like, this guy's crazy or something. I thought, I'm just going to have to move. So I started looking at places and I'm just like, oh, how do I move during a pandemic without catching COVID? Because I have to go to the inspections. I have to deal with the movers and going backwards and forwards and everything. It's just like, I can't do it now. I have to wait until it's like, okay, and that doesn't seem to be happening anytime soon. COVID seems to be sitting at the same level and has been for a couple of months now pretty much, and they're saying it's going to go up in winter, so who knows. So I thought, I can't move, I'm just stuck. What am I going to do? I got really anxious and depressed about it. It's like I'm trapped, I can't do anything. And then something wonderful happened. The real estate said, I offered him the apartment downstairs, he's going to move. And I'm like, that never occurred to me. He said, yeah, because he hates the heat upstairs, because the top level, the third level is the top level. It gets kind of the sun in winter. In summer it gets kind of hot. It stays warm in winter. It doesn't get as cold, unlike the ground levels, but the sun is really bad and he didn't like it. So he said, I offered him the ground level floor, so as soon as we get the carpet in, he can move. Well, that was 2 or 3 weeks ago. Because at first, when the guy was making noise, he said, look, just give him a week so to calm down, he'll be fine. He didn't. It was like a month or so later, I sort of said to the real estate, I don't know what to do. And he's like, well, I can't do anything. Is he threatening you? I'm like, well, no, he's just really loud. And he's like, and I said, can you talk to him? He said, no, I don't want to get him riled up. And I'm like, why do you care more about his feelings than the people he's disrupting? Because it can't just be me that's been bothered by this, because there are other guys who are across, there are other people on the floor that were complaining, actually calling him up and everything. So I'm like, well, surely they've got the same problem with this guy as the other guy, because he's louder. So I'm like, I just have to move. So I was sort of thinking, God, how do I manage this? And then, like I said, he came and said he's going to move downstairs, but it took 3 weeks because they had to get the carpet in. That took 2 weeks, and then they finally got that in. And the secretary who had to do the paperwork took the week off, so I had to wait another week for her to come back. And she sorted it out on Monday. And it's been another week for them to sort out the power and the keys. So today the real estate came. He gave him the keys because he's yelling on the phone, so I hear everything. And also he had a problem with the power. The power wasn't going to be switched on the right day, so he spent an hour and a half yelling at and abusing the people at the electricity company. He sorted that out. And he's got the keys and the power's going off now. We're building on Wednesday. And he finally started moving stuff tonight. He literally has like a metal trolley thing, and he's like taking stuff down the cement stairs. Like every step is like bam, 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 as he's like taking all this heavy stuff down. It's the first time I've been happy to hear him make noise in the hall, because he's actually going. And it's like, oh, thank God it's over. I mean, a couple of days of the noise of him moving, and then he's downstairs. I don't have to hear him again. Although I can still hear him. He's so loud, I can hear him downstairs, but it's more of an echo, like on a 1 to 10 scale, it's like a 2, as opposed to like a 9, because he was so loud, he may as well have been in the room yelling. It was like a 9 instead of a 10. If he'd been standing in the room yelling, it'd be a 10. It was like a 9. But when he's down and making noise on the bottom level and it's echoing up the stairwell, it's like a 1 or a 2. So I can just put my TV up, watch TV or put music on or something, and I don't really hear it. I can manage it. but the rest I couldn't manage. Like, it was like he was standing in the room yelling, and it was just like, I can't live like this. It was months and months of that, and it really stressed me, made me really anxious, and made me really feel really trapped and think of ways out, if you know what I mean. It was really bad. But yeah, in a couple of days it's going to be over. I didn't want to say anything because I didn't want people to think I was just making up another villain to complain about or be a victim of. And I also didn't want to jinx it before he moved out, so I thought I'll wait until he's actually going to move out, and then I'll tell people the story. So I'm going to put this on Facebook tomorrow, and I'm putting this video up. I needed some YouTube therapy to talk about it, and here it is. So thanks for participating in my therapy. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe, and if you've had a similar situation, feel free to tell me about it. I'm kind of curious if other people have gone through something like this. But I'm going to go. I'm going to keep this to 10 minutes roughly. Thanks. Bye.